Hey guys, welcome to our channel. So we've been decoding South America, moving 1,500 miles east. I've been meaning to mention the 0.002% variance is all that we calculated, and that's rough. But nonetheless, 0.002 of 1%, and we're getting all this information. Now we've got the letters to go, or the numbers, excuse me, to go through stock market, finance, genetics, medical, chemical, and because the algorithms and because this is so long aren't picking up the atomic numbers, the periodic table stuff anymore, for some reason I'm having to run it specifically, and in this case we're doing it separately. So now we're on atomic numbers and we're doing it separately because it's so long. So we took 1,500 miles and we got miles, kilometers, meters, yards, feet, inches, and centimeters, and we converted all that and we put them in one long code. And you ended up with 1500124, or no, 1500140162410062792000038849625 or 8534009504000. All right, now we're doing atomic numbers. And well, you start right off with 1, and 1 ends up being hydrogen on the periodic table of elements. Most of us know what that is, but it's a colorless, odorless gas. All right, then you move on from that. You got 5, which is boron, B-O-R-O-N, on the periodic table. And it's a dark amorphous powder, and it's used in pyrotechnics. All right. Then you got 15, which is phosphorus on the periodic table. I don't think I have to go into phosphorus. I don't think I have to go into 50 on the periodic table is tin. Tin, like the Tin Man. Plenty of Tin Man changes, right? 2 on the periodic table then is helium. And I don't think I have to tell anybody what helium is. If you move on from that, you got 4, which is beryllium. And that is a silvery white metal. Soft and low density. If you move on from that, you got 24, which is chromium on the periodic table. It's a hard silvery metal with a blue tinge. 41 then is niobium, and that is a silvery metal, very corrosion resistant. So that's a corrosion resistant metal. Plenty of metal in here. If you move on from that, you got silicon on the periodic table. I don't think we have to get into silicon. Most people know what that is. If you move on from that, you got 16, which is sulfur, and most people know what sulfur is, so we ain't going to get into that either. If you move on from that, you got 62, which is samarium, and it's a silvery white metal. If you move on from that, you got 40, which is, and by the way, we did use one of the zeros, but a lot of these zeros did not, we just threw them out here because there is no zero. So, and we're not looking for it to go forwards and backwards, and we could take the zeros out anyway. But we did 40, and that's zirconium, and that is a hard silvery metal, very corrosion resistant. So another corrosion resistant metal. If you move on from that, you got 26, which ends up being iron on the periodic table. I think we all know what iron is. All right. If you move on from that, you got 64, which is gadolinium, and it's a soft silvery metal. It reacts with water or oxygen and water. And if you move on from that, you got 6, which is carbon. I think we all know what carbon is. If you move on from that, you end up with 7, which is nitrogen on the periodic table. These are all on the periodic table. If you move on from, I think we all know what nitrogen is. If you move on from that, you get fluorine, is 9 on the periodic table. And that is a pale yellow, green, dangerously reactive gas. All right. If you move on from that, you got 79, which is gold on the periodic table. We all know what gold is. If you move on from that, you got 92, which is uranium, which is a radioactive silvery metal. Move on from that, you got 20, which is calcium on the periodic table. I think we know what calcium is. If you move on from that, you got 3, which is lithium on the periodic table, which is a soft silvery metal. So lots of silvery metals here, right? Move on from that, you got 38, which is strontium, which is a soft silvery metal that burns in air and reacts with water. If you move on from that, you take 8 by itself, you got oxygen. We all know what oxygen is for sure. And if you move on from that, you got 88, 88, which is radium on the periodic table, is a soft, shiny, silvery, radioactive metal. So radioactive metal is radium. Then if you move on from that, you got 84, which is polonium on the periodic table, which is silvery, gray, radioactive semi-metal. Radioactive semi-metal. Move on from that, you got 49, which is indium on the periodic table. It is a soft, silvery metal, stable in air and water. So that's the opposite of the one that reacts to air and water, right? It's stable in air and water. All right, move on from that, you got 96, which is curium on the periodic table. It's a radioactive silver metal that tarnishes rapidly in air. Another radioactive metal. So then you got 28 if you move on, and that's nickel, and we all know what nickel is. It's a silvery metal also. Move on from that, you got 85, which is, 28 was nickel. 85 then is astatine, and it is a dangerously reactive element. So you got reactive and unreactive stuff here. You also have, if you move on, you got 53, which is iodine, which is a black, shiny, crystalline solid. You move on from that, you got 34, which is selenium, which is a semi-metal that can exist in 2 forms. Silvery metal or red powder. All right. Move on from that, you got 95, which is americium, which is a silvery, shiny, radioactive metal. Another radioactive metal. And if you move on from that, you take 5,4 and you get xenon, Xenon, which is a colorless, odorless gas, very unreactive. So you have reactive and unreactive things, and that literally gets you through going forwards, minus some of the zeros, even though we weren't really expecting that, and now we're coming back. 45 then, and we already took the single numbers going forward. So now we're just taking 45, ends up being rhodium, or H-O-D-I-U-M, and it is a hard, shiny, silvery metal. Move on from that, you got 59, which ends up being chrysodium, Chrysodemium, and it is a soft silvery metal. You move on from that, you got 94, which is plutonium, which is a radioactive silvery metal. Move on, you got 43, which is technetium, which is a radioactive silvery metal. That does not occur naturally, so they had to make that. All right. Move on from that, you got 35, which ends up being bromine, which is a deep red oily liquid with with a sharp smell that's toxic. So there's toxic. If you move on from that, you got 58, which is cerium, and that ends up being a gray metal that tarnishes easily and reacts with water and burns easily when heated. All right, move on from that. You got 69, which is thulium, and it is a bright silvery metal. Move on from that. You got 48, which is cadmium, which is a silvery metal with bluish tinge to its surface. Move on from that. You got 83, which is bismuth, and it's right. It's a high density silver pink tinged metal, but its discovery date was approximately 1500, which is how many miles we've got South America east is 1500. And this was discovered in 1500, so that's interesting to me. Move on from that, you got 30, which is zinc, and it is a silvery white metallic or metal with blue tinge that tarnishes in air. Move on from that, you got 32, which is germanium, and it is a silvery white semi-metal that's brittle. If you move on from that, you got 29, which is copper, and we all know what copper is. It's a metal too. Move on from that, you got 97, which is beryllium, and it is a radioactive silvery metal. Some more radioactive metal. And if you move on from that, you got 70, which is yttrium, and that is a soft silvery metal. It slowly oxidizes in air and forms a protective surface layer. All right, you move on from that. You got 74, which is tungsten, which is a shiny silvery white metal. Then you move on from that. You got 46, which is palladium, a shiny silvery white metal that resists corrosion. So you got corrosion resistant and you got non-corrosion resistant, I guess you could call it, corrosive. If you move on from that, you got 61, which is promethium, which is a radioactive metal. So there's another radioactive metal. You move on from that, you got 10, which ends up being neon, which is a colorless, odorless gas. It will not react with any other substance. So there's a non-reactive gas. So if you move on from that, you got 42, which is molybdenum, and it's a shiny silvery metal, molybdenum. Not sure how you pronounce that one. But if you move on from that, you got 25, which is manganese, which is a hard, brittle, silvery metal. And if you move on from that, your last one, 51 coming back, 51, is antimony, and it's a semi-metal in metallic form. It's silvery, hard, and brittle. And that gets you through going forwards and backwards in atomic numbers, and it actually went through minus some of the zeros. So, and I'm sure we could have rearranged that and got all those zeros to go with the other numbers, but, you know, it's long and it's a lot, so I didn't do that. So there's your atomic numbers, lots of metal, radioactive, corrosive, non-corrosive, reactive, non-reactive, metals, powders, gases, all sorts of stuff in there. It's a mixed bag. Take it for what it is. But that's atomic numbers. And so next we will do laboratories. And that could be a day or two or more. It could be a day or three. It's going to take a while to run the search, and I got some other stuff to do in the next couple days. So, but I'll do my best to try to get it out. So that's going to be it for this one. And for now, guys, thanks for all your thumbs up, thumbs down when appropriate. By the way, if you're still with me and you get anything out of these videos, please thumb up. Help us out a lot. And thanks for all your comments, leads, feedback, and subscriptions. And thanks for watching, guys. Laboratories will be next, then research groups, then technology, and then random hits. And then we will convert all this into letters. And I know how we're going to do it. I just haven't exactly decided what we're going to do with all the zeros. So I'll be thinking about that as we go. So for now, guys, thanks for watching. And for now, you guys have a great rest of your evening.